Testing, testing. You guys hear me okay? Hear anything? You guys, one more quick audio test. Can you hear me? So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the live scene on now just to see if you guys can see everything. Seem to be having some audio issues there to begin with. It's on. Alright. Can you guys see and hear everything now? It has been a while. Okay, cool. Yeah, for some reason we were trying to get streaming on Twitch going, but we were having some issues with it, so hopefully I had my settings set way too high for doing live streaming. Had it set up for doing videos, so hopefully everything's back to normal now. Looks like you guys can see me okay. No, it does look familiar, don't it? We're actually doing a lot of customizations to this one. Got this one going for one of my buddies, so we're gonna be doing a lot of crazy stuff to it. I've already started doing a lot of the suspension work. We're actually going to be swapping the motor over to the actual Duramax motor that I've got, so it's going to get some swap outs there and some other additional updates. Let's see. Just need to get some of these things turned off on it. Try to clean up a lot of the stuff from the previous model. And this stream will probably go for a little bit. I'm going to try to not do too much talking. I'm just going to kind of let you guys watch me do some work on this guy. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I've got chat running on the side over here where I can see everything. Let's see. Alright. This one. This one shouldn't take too long. I've just got to get the suspension set up so that it functions the way it's supposed to. Hold on. I'm having trouble seeing the chat here. Screen. There we go. That's better. Yeah, I know. It's pretty big. I'd say it's probably a 6-inch, 4-inch. Better interior for this one? No, it's still the stock interior. Um, since we're doing the motor swap, I've thought about putting the newer interior in it. It really wouldn't be too complicated. Probably more than we want to get into on the stream here. Most of this is just going to be getting this cut over and see if we can get it loaded up in the game. Get rid of a few things here. Get rid of some old textures that we don't need. A lot of this suspension, I've got a really good leaf spring setup that I've brought over. And, oh yeah, this was his original truck. We're actually going to be swapping out a lot of the parts on this one. Full traditional suspension setup on this one. We're doing a front axle, or a solid front axle instead of the independent front suspension on it. We're going to be bringing the Duramax motor from one of the newer models into this one. Bumpers are going to get swapped out. And, all the suspension's going to get updated to this. It looks like it's sitting in there good right now, but you can only see about half of it. Once I move it down, it'll look a lot better. Da, da, da. Okay, let's go in here. This one's going to be pretty sick when it's done. I got the new tires on it, the Patriots. I haven't seen them in game yet, so it'll be really cool to get those in there. Some new wheels that were brought over. I think Carleone, I think he did these. Um, yeah, yeah, we can get. Yeah, I've got that new FTS lift that I did on some of those newer trucks, the new GMC, the 2020 that I did out there. I have to slap that on here and see what it looks like. Still need to get new link bars and everything made for that one, but we'll see how it goes. Let's see. Let me show you. So here's the suspension. So this is what it's going to look like once we get everything pushed down. So there we go. That's the full setup. So it's super detailed. So I got to break all these parts off so that the suspension and everything flexes like it's supposed to when you're driving it. Right now, everything would kind of just be static and it would just kind of float. It wouldn't really look like it's doing anything. So let's. All that's already pulled apart. I need to get the steering box off here. Oh yeah, yeah, we can go up to 14. That'd be cool. Okie dokie. So let me break all this stuff off. There's a lot of parts on here that don't need to be for the suspension piece. Snap these off. This will be our front axle. Okay. Well, let's see. There we go. Alright. Oh, I know. Talk about not having time. I'm having to work on stuff while I'm streaming at the same time. It's just not enough time in the day to do all the mods and do the streams and the editing, and it's just ridiculous how many things go into doing all this stuff. Let's see. I'm just going to continue breaking these pieces off that don't need to be on here. Swap that out. I'm trying to get my chat box to just sit where I need it to. It's just not wanting to cooperate tonight. This window is just ridiculous. There we go. Much better. Alright. Quit messing with that. Let's get these shocks broke apart. Just got it. Those are the pieces that are going to stay static instead of flexing. Front one's cleaned up. I'm actually going to swap these out. These rotors, I don't really like these generic ones that are on here. So I'll probably pull those off and move some of the GTA rotors over so they match better. But I do want to keep the drums on the back. I kind of like seeing the traditional suspension like that sometimes instead of just disc brakes all the way around. It's nice having a little bit of Alrighty. Oh, I know. Tell me about it. Probably will one day. I would play music, but I don't know if YouTube would get mad. They'd probably complain about it. Let's see what we got. We got 10 people in here already. Alrighty, so that's our back one. I'll break these two transmissions apart. Not transmissions, but axles. We got our rear. Turn up the gain on my mic. Super quiet. That sucks. And I'm kind of sick too, so I'm probably mumbling. So you'll have to bear with me on that. Settings real quick. It looks like it's all the way up. Let's see if I can adjust it in here. I'm not seeing audio settings for the mic. Yeah, it's turned all the way up, so it's probably just me mumbling that's doing it. Let's see. Alright. So, got our transmission rear. And we got our transmission front. If I could type. Oops. You guys can see everything I'm doing, right? I'm not chopping off the screen or nothing. Okay, good. I hate it when I've got boxes overlaying. I thought I had all that turned off, so hopefully you can see everything that I'm doing now. Basically what I'm doing is taking this static suspension that we've got set up from a model that we pulled in, and we're breaking it apart so that the individual pieces will function and flex like they're supposed to once we get the truck in the game. So see, we'll have to break these leaf springs off because those are actually independent pieces that need to be your 4 suspension parts. And then those will get attached to the tops of the shocks that we don't see here. And then they'll flex in and out of the transmission so it actually looks like the shocks are going up and down like they're supposed to. Very nice. Yep, cutting them over from San Andreas isn't too bad. It's just kind of rearranging all the parts and getting all the new collisions brought into it and everything. It can be a little tedious, but it's not too bad. Alright, so we got our two. I'm going to go ahead and cut these off too. Click on live, please. Am I not live? Okay. Sorry guys, hold on 1 second. I'm trying to make sure, see if we got some issues going on. Okay. Can you guys still hear me okay and see me okay? Okay, yeah, I've got the overlays turned off, so it didn't pop up. Sorry about that. Yeah, it did come in though, so they are working. I try to keep all the notifications and stuff off when I'm doing this stuff, so people can actually see what I've got, so they can kind of follow along with it a little bit better. Okay, let me get you guys back up. Okay, yeah. All right, so we're good. I think we got all the bugs out. I thought that that codec that was causing a problem. I think we fixed that. So Okay, so we got two suspensions. Let me put all these shocks back together for the upper halves. Turn the frame off. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll probably get this switched over to Twitch eventually, and then just re-upload the videos on YouTube. I don't really know yet. I got the Twitch page set up, but I just haven't got over there to do anything on it yet. We were gonna do it tonight, but I didn't feel comfortable not having some way to let the YouTube guys know that I was doing something. Okay, this is going to be attached to the frame. Oops. Attached to the frame. It's all one piece. The upper shocks. Just kind of attaching all these pieces that we cut off the other one. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see them all. Yeah, I'm sure you guys noticed the new logos and brands kind of brought over my old school logo I had in my Steam account that I've used for a million years. Decided to get some help from my buddy El Camino 1985. He helped me get the logo adjusted and scaled up so you can actually see it and everything. So it's kind of the new brand logo. Got the pages all updated. So just trying to streamline everything, make it all match across all the different platforms I'm on. Alrighty. So we got that. Shock. That's going to be part of suspension. RF. This one is suspension LF. That's rear. Yeah, it's going to look sick when it's in there. And it really shouldn't take too long. We should be able to get this, at least the base of it in there. I'm sure the customer's going to have a lot more requests for things to go on it. But we just want to get it in the game with the new suspension and everything tonight, just to make sure it works, and the wheels, make sure everything, the file size is right and everything, and we don't run into problems. Hey guys, welcome to the stream. Just streaming some work on a customer build we got going on tonight. Just kind of letting you guys see setting up some of the suspension stuff that I do. It's doing good. And I'm kind of mumbling a little bit because I'm a little under the weather, and I really just kind of need to get some work done. So I'm kind of just letting you guys watch while I've got stuff going on at the same time. Okay. These pieces attached. We just had to break a lot of pieces apart on the suspension and just trying to get things hooked back together in the right order where they need to be. Okay. Actually, no, they're not. Split these apart. Is the video quality good for you guys? I'm not real sure what it's streaming in. It should be HD quality. Pretty sure I've got it set up to stream in 1440p, but I don't really know how good it looks for you guys. Is it laggy or any kind of issues like that? It's kind of hard to tell while I've got it going live. Okay. piece off. Just trying to get the 4 different pieces set up for each 4 corners. Detach it. Good job. Okay, I think that's all 4 of them now. Attached to that. Fix this one back here. Suspension. It's a lot of work to get these things to function like they're supposed to. Most people just use the shortcuts and leave everything attached as one piece because the tires and stuff still, bounce up and down like they're supposed to. But if you really want to get the detail into the model, you kind of need to break these parts of the individual suspension parts off. And when it comes to leaf springs, they don't look 100% accurate like they're supposed to. But unless you're doing wild jumps or something like that, they look pretty spot on. It's a lower shock mount. Okay, so that needs to be on the suspension, not the frame. Okay, I'm just gonna call it this frame. Not sure if you guys are familiar or not, but anytime you're doing custom parts in the game, as long as it's not something crazy, um, no, I did not model this. This was pulled from somewhere. I can't remember. I've had it forever. I can't even remember where it came from. I actually have a giant pack of models that I work from, just scavenge parts from here and there. Whoever actually made it did a hell of a job on it because the polygon count on it's extremely low to be this much detail. So it's the first time I've actually tried to use it on one. I've got several other frame setups like this, but this one is just really nice. I've been kind of anxious to get it in there. Let's get this going. Transmission rear, transmission front. Okay, actually, sorry, I just have to think about how this stuff functions and flows in real life to make sure I've got the parts going in the right places. Actually gonna pull these completely off. I'll make it. I'll break them apart. It'll look cooler that way. So the upper links here will actually get attached to the frame, and they'll be static. And then the transmissions will bounce up and down and articulate, and then the shocks should go up and down inside like they're supposed to. So these need to go to the frame. Let's get this back on here. So now the other part we have to break off is the leaf springs, so that they will actually turn into your four suspension parts. So you've got your transmissions on each end. If you break shocks apart into two pieces, so the piston that goes inside of it, and attach those to the static part of the vehicle, then whenever the they can go on anything, FiveM or just regular single player, whatever you're into. Most of the ones I do nowadays are for FiveM. Single player, you get a lot more ability to use scripts and stuff. So for doing like static videos where you're just doing a little bit of role playing by yourself, it has its advantages. But most of the people I do stuff for nowadays is for FiveM servers. And I want to break these leaf springs off. Like you have the part where it actually connects to the frame. So this section here, the actual leaf, is gonna just kind of float inside that carrier that it's got there. So that'll make it look more realistic. So this is the fun part, pulling all this off, and hopefully, usually on these models that have the lower polygon counts, and after you've welded all your verts and stuff together, then usually you can highlight one thing and it selects the whole part, but sometimes it's just a pain in the butt and you have to kind of highlight everything and break it apart. It may take you a couple of different times pulling it all apart to get it to be able to hook it all back together. You may have to break it apart in sections and from multiple different angles to get all the pieces off, right? I've got several other live stream videos that I've done where I've done work on vehicles. Um, it's hard for me to find time to actually do regular tutorials on specific things, but if somebody's got a specific issue they're having or something like that, you can always hit me up on my Discord page, and I'll help out with pretty much anything you need. But as far as official classes or anything like that, I've never actually. I don't know that I would have time in the day to sit down and do something like that. It's usually easier to just kind of live stream stuff while I'm working on it, and let people kind of follow along with what I'm doing. One of those things that would be great to do, but it's just finding the time in life to get everything done that needs to be done. Because I typically do most of this stuff all by myself, so it's kind of hard to find time to make the videos, make the mods, fix everybody else's mods when they have problems, and just kind of get spread all over the place. So definitely something I'll take under advisement that I need to do. If you guys have ideas of things you would like to see in a tutorial, then I could. It may be easier to work from that angle. I've thought about just trying to take a stock car from GTA, pull it in, change something small on it, and yeah, I use 3ds too. I use anytime I have to do like polygon work. If I need to decrease the polygons on something, I usually use 3ds to get that done. Sometimes Blender helps, but it's not really. It's kind of a weird program. After you've gotten used to some of these programs, that one's kind of weird. The layout and design of it is kind of awkward to catch on to. But most of the stuff I find I can do in here in ZModeler, and I don't really need external tools. Usually the only thing that I need a tool for is, like I said, just doing polygon work if I need to reduce something. But most stuff you can do in here just fine. Ugh, this is tedious. Just for the sake of me not going crazy, I really hate to do it that way. I really like to break them apart where they need to be because I hate shortcutting stuff. So I'm just going to take the time to select all the stupid pieces to get it off right. It just takes time. Sometimes on little intricate parts like this, it may be more beneficial to, like you see how I've selected the big chunks here, it may be more beneficial for people to go ahead and detach those and then just work from what little bit's left. Because it can get tedious and you can accidentally delete things you don't want to. I can tell you I've done that a lot. So you kind of just have to be careful when you're doing it. You may get stuff that you don't mean to get, and you'll have to come back and break off the pieces that are left and go from there to get all the little pieces that you need. But see, even though it looks like I've got all this, I guarantee you there's crap on the inside that you can't see. Up here at the top, you're always going to miss something. So you may just get as much of it as you can and then come back and snap off any of the little pieces that are left that you missed. It's very tedious. You got multiple different layers of parts in there. Looks like we got most of it there. Let's check the back. Welcome to the stream, guys. If you're just now getting on, just kind of doing some work on a customer vehicle, just trying to get some things done and letting you guys kind of follow along with the adventure as I go. But yeah, people just don't realize how much time goes into these things to really get into it and make all the little pieces work like they're supposed to. It can be tedious. See, I'm being dumb and picking stuff I don't even need to pick. So just go back and unselect what you don't. And much like the first pieces I was messing with, you may end up breaking something into 1,000 pieces before you glue it all back together per se. Modeler's not bad. A lot of people hate on it, but it's just like any other tool. You know, if you spent years playing with it, you end up picking it up and learning all the little nuances of it as you go. And it's just one of those things you got to put the time into it if you really want to learn it. But once you know it, it's second nature. And there I go again. Good grief. Part. You can kind of see, if you look at them really close, you can kind of see the dots that don't get selected. Yeah, so that was my problem when I started. I mean, I've been doing this for damn near 3 years now, straight, like nonstop, every day, all the time. And there are no good tutorials. I mean, some people have done some stuff over time, but like you say, 90% of it's in a different language, and they don't bother to translate any of it. So you just, I mean, if you can't follow along with what they're doing and they're just watching them, then you'll be like me and just learning it as you go. You know, break it 1,000 times, and then you eventually figure out what you're doing wrong. Oh yeah, you will spend a lot of time on it. That's for sure. But once you get it, you know it's great, and it's. I mean, there's so many little things that you have to do in it that doing tutorials is a great idea. But I mean, you could literally sit here all day long and show somebody how to do all this stuff, and they're just not going to pick it up until you start doing it consistently. You really got to get into it. I mean, when I started, I had no 3D modeling experience whatsoever. I mean, I couldn't do any of this stuff. Um, link to what? Or are you talking to Bloody? All right. You guys have any issues hearing me? Anybody else? I feel like I'm screaming a little bit. I'm just trying to make sure everybody can hear me okay. I think that's everything for the first run, so we'll see how that comes apart. See if we missed anything. Never lucky enough to get it all on the first try. but that's pretty dang good right there. Just a few little polygons left that we missed. So let's go ahead and select what's remaining. And then we will break what we cut off into our 4 suspension pieces. Yes. Yes, you have to have a lot of patience. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've slammed my head on the desk doing this stuff, you know, and just stupid things that nobody bothered to share when I started doing it, just little things. I mean, the main thing that kills people right off the bat is when they start, like, going in here and doing basic stuff to your models is easy, but, you know, getting it into the game is a different story. There's several things that can go wrong when you try to export it because um, there's just a lot of game mechanics you have to take into account. So you have like your basic model that you see here, but behind this you have dummies, which things the individual meshes, the model pieces need to be nested into, or else they won't show up right, they won't function right. You have the axes for the individual parts. Like each piece, each mesh piece has an axis, and if that axis is not pointed in the right direction, then when you spawn it in the game, your parts will just randomly stick out of the car in different directions and all kinds of stuff like that. Another thing that people have problems with is the model itself will crash the minute you try to load it in the game. And I can show you right here. It's super easy to fix. Just about anything you do to a car, even if the axes are screwed up, as long as you delete this base setting at the top of the model, there should be no reason for it to crash your game whatsoever. So if you go to the base of any model you're working on, the very top dummy, which is the name of the model, it has properties that are associated to it. So if you go into those and you go to user defined options, typically you have a setting in here called base, and it'll have a random number value assigned to it. And you can increase that number value to get around the problem. So usually it's like 2310 or a really low number. Basically it has something to do with how the model utilizes memory within the game. But it's not needed. It's just like a default setting that's pulled off of anything that you import into this Z modeler. So as long as you go in here and find that base setting, click on it and hit delete and OK, and then apply, your model shouldn't crash the game at all. And that's most people's problems when they're doing this stuff, and that'll drive you absolutely insane with weird problems if you don't get that taken out or adjusted the way that it should be. I mean, I remember back when I very first started doing this stuff, you had, I think it was the Sand King, if I remember right, the HD, the big one that I did, adding all those pieces to it that I put on there. You know, I mean, realistically, you can add one small piece to a model, and it's going to push it over that base limit that they set initially from that, you know, mod or model when it came in GTA. So you go to load it in the game, it could load, depending on how far over that limit it is. But, you know, if it's just close enough that, you know, it causes problems, you could be driving the model around and, you know, beams will start poking out of it at random places, and just all kinds of oddities can happen. And that's just because it's not using the memory right, or it doesn't have enough, that base settings restricting it too much to be able to function like it should in the game. My Discord is BaggedCustoms. I think we changed the name to it the other day, just kind of streamlining all the names across all the tools, if that's the one you're asking for. I think that's it, if I'm not mistaken. These nuts can look it up to be sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what we changed it to. And it's open. I've never had one before, so anybody's welcome to join it. And I've got different sections set up. If you've got questions, you know, if I come up with tutorials, they'll be on here on YouTube, or obviously they'll, you know, you can find links to them on there. I'm probably going to start doing community mods, you know, only, not necessarily stuff that's public on FiveMods. So if I start doing any Discord exclusives and stuff like that, you'll find them on there. Haven't really got any yet, but we're really getting everything ramped up here to start having a lot of stuff on there for people. I should have started one a lot sooner, but I've just never. Like I said, this is a lot of stuff to do all by yourself, so I've kind of just been doing little bits here and there as I get time. Because of course I work during the day and everything else, and family, and this is just a hobby for me, just something. It's a great outlet for. I'm a big car guy, so it's fun to be able to get in here and build cars the way I want to build them, without having to actually spend money on it. So it's a fun hobby. Keeps me married, not getting in trouble. I think we've got everything cut off now. It looks like all the one little piece there. And I'm being overly anal about this stuff, but as you can tell from all of my models, I try to go above and beyond on everything I do, even if it's just stuff for me. Yeah, that's El Camino. Yeah, his YouTube name's a little different, so he's been trying to get his straightened out too. And I'm sure a lot of you guys that are in here are probably in the Discord already. I just don't recognize your names, so sorry if if I don't act like I know who everybody is. It's kind of hard to keep up. Alright, let's go ahead. I think we're about done with this. I really want to get the suspension in the game and see what it looks like. I think this truck's going to look really sweet when it's done. Still miss some pieces here and there. A little bit more there. And see, it's just tedious. I mean, there's so many little pieces that you can miss. Just stuff that you can't even freaking see, because it's so wrapped up so tight inside these other pieces. See, that looked like part of it, but it was actually the piece I needed to cut off. Let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, it's a super detailed frame. It's one of the best I've seen out there. Whoever did the initial build of it did an awesome job. But we're trying to make it a little better. See if we can make it look realistic in the game. That's what I'm shooting for. Alright, I think that's it. I have no clue. I think the stream is a little delayed. I mean, at least I'm kind of seeing it up here in the top window. It looks like it's a little behind of what I'm doing. I don't know if that's annoying, or I don't know if you guys even noticed that. So let's go. Alright, so now we got our frame. Frame's finished. So we're going to leave it named frame, so it'll be fine. Got our two transmissions. They're fine. The only thing I want to do is cut off this disc, because the disc that I'm going to use is actually on the wheel. So I'm going to get rid of this disc and disc and a rotor. Yes and no. Most of the stuff I do pushes the limits. I try to fit in as much detail as I possibly can, but everything I do is tested on FiveM and single player. So some of the older mods may not. I know the Jeep that I've got out, the Snowhawk that came out a long time ago, I don't think its texture file's low enough. I've updated it for some individuals that have requested it, but I just haven't got back to update a lot of those. A lot of my older mods. I mean, I've definitely learned a lot along the way. You can probably tell in the quality of the mods as they've gone on. I need to get back and update a lot of the older ones, but most of the new stuff is all FiveM compatible. I try to keep everything under that 16 meg limit, so as long as you're under that, then everything should work. But like I said, I cram as much detail in as I can. So hey guys, welcome to the stream. So most of them are pushing that 15, 16 meg limit. I mean, some models are lower, where they can be, but it just depends on the mod. I mean, some of them, some of the bigger models can be that way, but I try to get them down low enough that they'll function just fine. And I've got my own private server that I do all my testing on, so I fully test all of them before I send them out. Alright, so we got our transmissions. Let's go ahead and clean these all up and attach all these pieces that we took off. These are going to be your 4 suspension pieces, and these will flex up and down like they're supposed to in real life. Alright. I don't. I probably should, but once again, that's a million things I'm trying to keep up with at one time as one person. Um, I don't know. I think I've got so many mods out on FiveMods right now that I may start doing some exclusive stuff. I mean, I already do exclusive builds for a lot of people. A lot of big YouTubers that are out there have custom things that I've done for them per their request. Um, but once I get enough built up that I could potentially do packages or something like that, um, I may start doing something along those lines. Yeah, Blender's nice. I say that. It may be nice for some people, but it's like any tool. Once you've uh, once you've learned it, it's probably not bad. But I've been using ZModeler for so long. If I try to go use Blender, it's just like a different language for me. I mean, there's so many different things, and everything's in weird places, and just the layout's not very intuitive, if you ask me. But yeah, it's just my opinion. If you've been using it since the beginning, then it's probably second nature to you, just like this is for me. So it is what it is. Yes, lethal does keep me busy most of the time. Yeah. It's been kind of overwhelming lately. So many people wanting so many different things. I've just kind of been trying to hit everybody best I can. Yeah, yeah, definitely hit me up on Discord. I'm always on there 24/7 for the most part. If you ever have any questions, just feel free to hit me up. I have no clue. And honestly, I don't know that they use ZModeler at Rockstar. I think ZModeler was just something that was came up with third party to interact with their models that they have. I don't think they probably have their own in-house tool that they use for all their 3D modeling. I would suspect. Um, but if what I did there, I'm just centering all these axes so that the way the suspensions work in the game, if you have your 4 independent suspension pieces, so 1, 2, 3, 4, front, left, rear, all the different parts. Um, you want to kind of center these. The suspensions are weird because if you set them to, um, so yeah, suspensions are weird. So the way the game works with them, the axis on most parts, like wheels or anything like that, you need it perfectly centered in the middle. But if you ever go and pull apart one of the default GTA vehicles, you'll see that the suspension axis is like basically, I guess you would say at the horizon point of your pieces. So I'll actually select all these, and I believe it has something to do with how much flex it actually has. Um, yeah, I'm Eastern time, so when I say 24 hours, I'm here. I spot check my phone here and there when I'm not at my desk, but most of the time during the day, I'm available or any time like that to answer questions or requests or anything like that. Um, and I mean, when I say request, I take requests under advisement of things that people would like to see. Most of my time is spent doing custom work for people. I love building new things, so I have my own stuff that I do. I love doing the construction equipment. I've actually got a literal pile of construction equipment that I'm working on. Um, and that's kind of like my other focus when I'm not working on customer stuff, and then I do releases, public releases that go on FiveMods. I try to do one a month, maybe. I've kind of slowed down a little bit on the public releases just because I can't physically do everything in the amount of time that I've got. So I've got several pieces that are finished that I haven't released to anybody yet, and I just kind of decide as I go along if it's going to be a public release or if I have a lot of private interest in it. Some stuff gets sent to some of the bigger YouTubers before anybody even has a chance to see it. So sometimes they get some of the exclusives that are out there. Like I know Ace got the big HD wrecker. And I can show you guys that too. I've actually got another version of that. I'm working for another guy right now. But he had an extreme interest in that when I was working on it. So whenever you have a part like this, like I need to move these axes up. They're too low. Because see, you kind of want to have them probably about right here. So you have this horizontal link between these two. So you kind of want to have your suspension part in the middle of that. So it kind of, because the way GTA works, it'll bend that mesh and kind of give it a realistic, don't talk to me about that. God, I got to get back to that truck. The reason that truck is taking, I've got so many requests for that body style, and I'm completely reworking it from the ground up because the original model, the polygons were so high on it that you couldn't add anything to it, any custom stuff. So I took the original model from, I think it was Home 3D or Squire or somewhere like that, and got the lower polygon version of it, and then I did even more polygon work to it to get it lower. I think I finally got it down to under 200K for the whole model. So I'm taking that and just completely reworking it, putting the new interior in it, refitting everything, doing all the door jambs over again, the engine bay. It's actually going to have the Duramax engine in it. And it's just a lot. And it's just one thing on top of everything else that's going on. So what I did here, I don't want to move the mesh. I want it to stay where it's at, but I want to move its axis. So if you hit the little toggle box here, you can check that box to say move only axes. And then just take that, and then you can slide your axis up and down. See, it moves the axes without moving the mesh. So once you get that one in position, so these back two are fine. So I'll unselect those. And my fronts, I want to move them down just a pinch. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with what you guys are talking about and do this at the same time. Welcome to the stream, guys, if you hadn't been here yet. We're just doing some work on a customer's 2006 Silverado 2500 HD. We're actually doing a solid axle swap on the front, and we're going to put the new Duramax motor in it, new wheels, and probably end up doing some different body parts to it. I think we're going to swap the front bumper out to a different style with the square fog lights instead of the round ones. And I'll get the whole picture of it for you guys here in a second. We've kind of just been spending a lot of time on the suspension, getting everything set up right, so that once we get it in the game, all the pieces will flex like they're supposed to, and it'll look more realistic. Once you get done moving your axes, make sure you turn that back off. And also one cool thing, and this is, well, I don't want to get off on a tangent. One day in a tutorial video, I can go through some of these other tricks up here, such as mirroring parts. By default, ZModeler is set up that when you mirror the part, it also mirrors the axis, so that when you get it on the other side, it screws you completely up when you try to attach stuff back to your original piece. So whenever you're doing mirroring, make sure that you have only geometries turned on, because by default it checks axis as well, and that will completely screw up anything you're trying to make a second half of. So just food for thought. Just keep that in mind. The bumper axes, if you ever look at one of the default models, they're always off-centered. They're either far off to the left or the right. And that's because that's a piece in the game that is designed to break away. And if you have it right in the center, You literally have to knock the crap out of the car to even try to get the bumper to fall off. But for some reason, if you off-center it to the left or the right, and I can show you here. So if you've got, let's just look at the rear bumper. Where's it at? Bumper rear. So whenever you're doing these, see how the axis is way over here off to the left? Always just completely like, select your model, the mesh piece that you're working with, just select it, go to move, make sure you got your axis moved, and then just, go to the x-axis, that's left and right, and then you just slide it. So by default, if you center it on the model, it'll be in the middle, but you want to kind of just push it off to the sides. That way your bumpers actually fall off like they're supposed to. Live script. I'm not sure what a FiveM live script is. I don't really do scripting. That's not really me. I've done a lot of work with I'm Not Middle in the past. He's a huge scripter. He's done a lot of stuff on FiveMods. It may be next to impossible to get a hold of him, but he's probably the person I would say if you need any script work. But I don't think he does anything for FiveM per se. I think most of the stuff he does is single player. Yeah, tell me about it. I learned it literally until like 6 months ago, and it was like a whole new day when I learned how to not screw up everything I'm doing every time I'm working on it. I mean, that made building stuff from scratch. Like, I can come in here now and actually build things and do it the way that you're supposed to do it, and it comes out perfect. So, like grills and stuff like that, I mean, you can come in here and just start making your mesh from scratch and then extrude it, copy it, flip it, attach it back together, and it doesn't do that stupid flip inside out crap. And because that causes you to have to recalculate the normals, and it can, make them bend up and look stupid when you do that. So it's, yeah, it was a night and day difference. Yeah, the scripts for single player, he's probably the go-to person that I've dealt with for doing scripting. I'm sure there's a lot of other great people out there, but definitely I would try to hit him up if it's something like that. I mean, if you're trying to get some of his scripts to work or mine, or I mean, a lot of the scripts you can kind of reverse engineer and use them for different purposes. I've actually been meaning to do a new version of the Wrecker that he's got out there, the MTL, and just reuse that script that he's got to do all the functions. Um, so if you like open a model of OpenIV, you can actually go in and inspect all the pieces, and you can actually kind of look and see which piece, like the bed that slides, what it's nested in and things like that, and you can kind of name your parts the same way, and the script should just work just fine. There's nothing in those scripts that are tied to a specific vehicle name, or, well, I say that. There's usually an INI file, I believe is what it was, if I remember right, when I did the Lowboy script, and you can actually put other model names in those, and then the same script will pick it up and it'll work for those as well. What do you mean tell the size of a vehicle? You talking about file size or like actual metric size, like how big it is? Usually when I'm scaling stuff, I'll just import a similar vehicle, like one of the default GTA vehicles, and then I just scale the whole model. Before you start doing any building on it, you want to kind of scale it to one of the in-game vehicles, just to kind of get the size where it needs to be. As far as like a ruler way to tell, there probably is somewhere, but I've never figured it out. That's kind of just always been my go-to method for doing it. If that's what you're talking about. I'm assuming size is what you mean, not file size. Welcome to the stream, guys. Got a good base going now. Um, yeah. So size, that's what I meant. So just like if you're working on a truck, import one of the Sand King or something like that, and then just scale your whole mesh down to that size before you start building it and adding stuff to it and things like that. Because there's nothing worse than getting your whole car ready to go in the game and then realizing the stupid thing's too big. Um, You can scale it down after the fact. It's not too bad to do that, but you get back to having to recenter a lot of axes and stuff like that once you've broken all your parts off. Um, so yeah, definitely do something like that before you start going crazy on it. Just get it scaled down to one of the in-game vehicles. That's the best way to do it. Alright, so now we've got our 4 suspension parts. We got our axes set where they need to be. You can see that I've got the dummies turned on for the suspension pieces that were on here. But we're going to recenter those. yeah, yeah. So this is some of the stuff that gets a lot of people in trouble, the axes. So what we're going to do, we're going to use the copy axis tool, and we're going to take the axes that we set on the individual suspension parts, and we want to move the dummies that we're going to stick them under to match them. So this right here is suspension right front, so we'll just copy this one, and it'll move the dummy up here where it needs to be. And same for the other spots. Just copying the axes to where they need to be. There we go. Now we can take our suspension frame, our parts. So that's right rear. And you got to make sure you rename these to match. So we'll take the one that we've got here, which is right rear. Just copy that name, paste it on that mesh. And just do the same for the other 3. That's left front. Hold on. 2008 F350 interior. You can probably find the interior on one of the 3D model websites for like the Raptor, and probably get away with using that. You could go look for some of the unlocked models in San Andreas that may already have the Super Duty interior, or get a model from Squire or somewhere like that. I'd stay away from Home 3D. I'm not a fan of their models. The outsides of them are usually extremely high polygon, and they have no interior in them whatsoever. So Squire models are definitely the way to go if you're really wanting something clean that has the matching real interior in it. And then of course you get into other video games that already have the stuff you're looking for. So a 2008 F350, you could probably find that in San Francisco. What's that game? Driver. Pretty sure it had a 2008 F350 in it. That's going to be really low polygon, so it'll work perfect in this game. And then Farm Sim always has everything you could imagine. So you could probably find some good interior out there. That is not a wheel. Front suspension. There's that one. Let's get the name copied. Crew cab. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, that's right front. Let's go ahead and rename it. And the last one is left rear. There we go. Alright, so now, most people don't know how to do this part. Once you've got your meshes finished, all meshes have to go into a dummy. Dummy is usually the part that is the same name. That is just what the game uses to know where that piece is and where it needs to spawn it. That's what the axes are for. It reads the axes into its, scripting language that it pulls it out of, and reads the axis that it's set to, and then it knows to spawn that part in the game where it's at. I hope they do too, but I don't have a good feeling about it. I know how much of a stink they had about this version, and just seeing how picky they are about their stupid money cards that they're still trying to force down everybody right now. modding, like he said, modding will come alive for GTA 5 again whenever 6 gets ready to come out. Because everybody will go looking for it. It won't be available for probably a year to a year and a half or more after the game actually comes out on consoles. So I wouldn't hold your breath for it anytime soon, even when it does finally come out. I know we had to wait at least a year and a half after this one to get the PC version, just for 5 when it came out. So I would imagine we'll probably still be doing 5 for at least the next 3 or 4 years before that game ever comes out. I would imagine it probably won't be out till 2022 or somewhere in that time frame if I had to guess. Just depends on how fast they ramp it up. Last I heard, they were starting to hire a lot of developers and stuff. It sounded like to start working on a big project like that. So, but it's probably going to be 5 for the near future. So embrace it and make it better while you can. I mean, you still have people that are playing 4 and San Andreas, so I mean, people play these games forever. So here, let me show you what I was doing. So what you find your piece that you're wanting to work on. So for the game to recognize it, you have to add it to one of the LOD levels. So you got 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 and collision. It would be nice if they made it simpler, but I don't know. Because I mean, OpenIV, I mean, who knows how long it'll take those guys to decode everything and even make it where we can actually run something like that against it. I mean, hell, Red Dead Redemption 2 is not even on PC yet, is it? I don't even think that one's came over yet. I would imagine once they get that, where OpenIV will work with it like it used to work with the old one, then that'll probably give us a good time frame estimate of how long it'll take. But who knows? I don't even want to speculate on 6 yet. Alright, so what we're doing here. So we got your 4 suspension parts, 4 dummies. So what you want to do, you always want to start with your top dummy, convert it, just without anything checked, and that'll turn it to a default dummy. Lock it. You have to lock it before it'll let you do anything to it. Once you've got it locked, pick your LOD level 0. That's where you're always going to start. You can get into your additional LODs if you are trying to optimize a model to be more lower end PC friendly. It's not required. If you're going to be doing public releases, you might want to look into at least doing LOD level 1 and 2. That's something I can get into a tutorial to do one day. It's probably a lot easier to do those in 3D Studio or something like that, where you can just completely instantly optimize the whole mesh to make them smaller and less detailed as you go down through the LOD levels. So as you step down through each one of these, you want to kind of make each one a little crappier looking by removing its polygon count. You can do that in ZModeler, kind of a cheesy way of doing it, but if you want to do it the right way, you really need to get into a 3D modeling program that can do actual full mesh optimizations and things like that. Yeah, Red Dead, I don't know if it was on PC or not, so that may be an exclusive just for consoles, so that may be a bad one to judge it against. Yeah, I can do LODs. It's not hard. Basically, you follow the same process that I'm doing here for LOD 0. The way I typically do it, and I can do an example here. Let's just hide all these. So if we've got 4 suspension parts and we want to make it LOD friendly, what I would usually do is make probably 3 copies of this. And you got to keep in mind that when you're doing this, there's a different way to export it. Because you actually have to export the high version and the low version. Because the low version's only going to have LODs 1, 2, 3, and 4. Actually, it has all the LODs in it. And then your high export only has the LOD 0 in it. So what I would do is take 4 copies of this suspension. This is not what I'm doing for this one. I'm not doing LODs for this whole vehicle, but I'll do this one just to kind of show you. It's really, really easy. So once you got your first part, and I would recommend going ahead and building the whole thing out. So we've got our suspension piece that we're working on. Let me go ahead and close this out and redo it. So lock the top dummy. We got LOD 0. Just take that and drag it up to LOD 0. Go to LOD 1. Come up here and drop it in LOD 1. LOD 2. And you can go all the ways. You can go to LOD 3 and 4 if you want to. I usually stop at 2. And like I said, it's not a requirement. This is literally only for people that are trying to put vehicles in traffic, so that there could potentially be 10 of the same model spawned at one time on screen. And for low-end PCs. I don't have a low-end PC, so I don't build around that. Most of the people that I deal with that run FiveM servers have no issues running at LOD 0 because realistically, you're not putting these mods in traffic. I mean, most of the stuff I do is not just a random traffic mod that you're going to see driving down the street. I mean, it's usually you're going to have 5 or 10 people in your server, and that may be the max that you have running around. So once you get your pieces drug into the individual LODs that they're in, so you can go back through them, I usually just leave 0 alone, because that's going to be your high detail model. You can go to LOD 1, and under modifications or under modify, you have the optimize button. And all this does is cuts down how many polygons there are in the model. And you got to kind of be lenient with it because it will rip the model apart if you try to get too crazy. So if you come in here, so you're on LOD 1, so that's your second detail drop. So you want that one to still be pretty close to the original. So you just go ahead and click the button on the model, and that'll deform it. And you can see I've got my quality set at 80 right now. Just depending on how much detail you want in it, it's really just one of those games where you got to play with it and see what point it rips the model apart and you start getting holes in it. So I'd probably start at 90, and you'll see the quality go back up a little bit. So LOD 1, we've dropped it to 90% of what it was. So there's no visible tearing. There may be some deformities in it. You may see some ripples and little waves, but for the most part, it's pretty close to original. Then you can switch to LOD 2 and do the same thing and dump this one down to like 85. And that'll deform it a little bit more. May not still be visible, but you can kind of see a little bit of squaring off of edges and things like that. So then just go to LOD 3 and do it again. And you can bump this one down to 80. And you can be as extreme with these as you want. So we've got down to 80 now. And still no deforming really. So these very simplistic parts are still, they're optimizing really well. So you can really cut down the polygon count on some of these parts if you want and still retain a lot of that detail. And usually this is what I do on a lot of my models, especially the ones where I get crazy with the parts that are going on them. I'll just take individual pieces here and there and just go through that optimizing process until it, doesn't really tear the model apart, and just kind of keep it within reason for doing basic optimizations in here. I mean, if you got a model that's got a million polygons, I wouldn't even attempt to even load it in this tool. I would immediately take that into 3D Studio and try to do some kind of mesh deforming or something like that on it to get it usable before you start trying to rip it apart to turn it into a model to go into a game like this. So we're on LOD 3, and it's tedious as hell, and honest to God, that's why I don't do it. I mean, if somebody really expresses the interest, or if it's a really fancy model that I'm doing that hadn't been done on FiveMods before, I may go through the trouble of doing this, but it's not needed. I mean, if you're playing on a high-end machine, I honestly wouldn't waste your time on it. I mean, you're only doing this to help people that want to put models in traffic. So it's not really worth it's not worth my time to bother with it. I mean, I can do it, but I'm not. I mean, it literally takes you probably 5 extra hours to do a model from what it normally would if you actually want to do the LODs on every piece and do it right. And it's just not worth that kind of time investment, in my opinion. It's you can just do LOD 0 and then just go into your vehicle meta file when you get it done and turn the first LOD distance to 500, and you'll never have it'll never disappear. So any of the mods you download off FiveMods or anything like that, I can show you guys this if you don't know how to do any of the meta files. It's one of the easiest files to mess. Well, it's one of the basic files to mess with. So if you've got a basic mod that you downloaded off FiveMods and it's got pieces that are disappearing in traffic, all you got to do is come into the vehicle meta file, just turn on edit and edit that file, and just scroll down till you see the LOD section right here. LOD distances. Just make them something stupid. I mean, you can bump them up to 500 and save it, and then that model will stop disappearing on you when it's driving around. So super easy to fix. Any of the custom mods you've downloaded that are like that. Alright, so let's get this thing going. So I'm going to get rid of these because I'm not doing LODs. But that's literally all you do for the LODs. And then each level that you've got, each detail level will progressively get a little bit little less detailed. And that's all there is to it. So before you do LODs, I would get your whole vehicle done and in game, and then you can come back and all the pieces that are actually LOD 0 visible, you can copy them and then do your optimizations for each level as you go. Way too tedious for most stuff though, but it's not hard. So let's get rid of these. We don't need. Alright, so we got suspension LR done. Let's go ahead and get RR finished. So we're just going to convert it, lock it, L0. Yes, this is the cata. Convert it, lock it, L0. Come on. Convert it, lock it, and 0. And there's our suspension, all finished. That's all you got to do. Now, anytime you guys build models, I expect to see it with moving suspension parts. It's not hard. It just takes a little bit longer to break the pieces off and then make them like that. Tedious makes things look good, honestly. I mean, if you're going to go and put this amount of time into these models that I put into it, everything's going to work on it. And there we go. So there's that. Up. There we go. So suspension's finished, frame's finished. Let's go ahead and move this up here. Just kind of keep them all together. I'm going to go ahead and create a dummy for this. So this is how I do it. So I'll take the piece, copy it, and make sure it actually copied it. Put it down here. Just move it up here. Right click on one of them and say convert to dummy. Then it'll make you a nice little square. That should have turned it all into. And do the same thing as we were doing for suspension. Just convert it, lock it, move the frame into that, and now that's a LOD 0 piece. Yeah, I can, yep. So once you get the pieces broke apart, this is a customer mod, yes. I may eventually do a public version of this truck, but this one is for a customer. I'm kind of having to put my work stuff into the videos because I don't have time to do everything. So then we got our transmission pieces that we need to move up. So transmission front, Let's move it up here under its dummy. Transmission rear under its dummy. Same process for these. Hey Ace, how's it going, man? Appreciate you stopping in. Just showing off a Silverado I'm doing for a gentleman, and getting its frame all set up and built. So we got our individual transmissions put together. We can go ahead, well, before I do that, I'm going to cut off these front pieces and the drums on the back. I want to keep the drums on the back. I think they look cool. So when you're doing drums, it's just like you do discs. You just attach them to the wheel instead of being attached to the frame or the mesh that's that they're hooked to. So just detach it, and then I'll attach that to the wheel in replace of a disc brake that would normally be there. So see, it came right off, and you only need one of them because it's going to copy to the other side when you do it. So the second one you can just delete, and that will actually become part of the wheel right there. So I'll go ahead and move that down to my wheel. And I know we're running a little long, but you guys seem to really be into this, so I'll keep going as long as you want to. Probably run for at least another hour. I usually do the live builds for 2 hours, so appreciate you guys hanging out. I'm trying to answer the question about the bumpers. Hold on one second. So you're saying he had a gooseneck and the bumper hitch, and they both worked at the same time? I've never seen that work. I know if it was one of my trucks, then there's probably two versions of it. There's usually a gooseneck and a bumper hitch version, and maybe that's how he did it, but I'm not sure. So, there's tons of websites. You can get on Discord, and I can hit it. Message me sometime, and I can get you some websites where you can find all kinds of models. There's I can't even go into how many there are out there. So transmission. Okay, so that is going to be part of the wheel. I didn't think about that. We may have to go discs. Let me see how many polygons we're looking at. Here's an old truck if you guys hadn't seen it yet. It's coming along. I started doing the fenders, the black trim on the fenders last night. Hey guys, welcome. I've been kind of having to refit this because the front of this model didn't actually have the bumper trim on it. So I've had to kind of copy that and move it around, refit it to the front of the vehicle. I know Lethal, he's wanting the side trim. I'll have to look and see if I've got some of that somewhere. I'm sure I've got some side molding that I can stick on there from something that'll match. Let's see. So that, let's see what kind of polygon count. Since I went to this lower poly suspension, I'm hoping it's less. That's not bad. 242. So that might work. So we may be able to get by with two different wheels. I'll test it. Worst case scenario, we have to switch to discs front and back, but I'd really like to keep the drums if possible. Those are really nice looking drums. What are they? Yeah, they're super tiny. So they're not even adding that much to the model. Hey guys, welcome. Let's go ahead. This wheel. Let's see what we'd be looking at with two wheels. Oops. Gotta turn your axes off. So we'll go ahead and pull this back. Yeah, that's gonna look good. It's different. Everybody's always got discs. I like doing things different every once in a while. I love these classic suspension setups. They have so much more detail than some of the newer stuff does. I get tired of seeing everything on link bars and stuff like that. I mean, they look good and have their place, but sometimes it's nice to just see something traditional looking. Let's get that turned off. Scoot that back over. Yeah, I've got the gooseneck that D's Nutties did on 5Mods. I'm actually doing some work on that one for him to get the tailgate working right on it. I'm actually going to take that and chop it down a little bit so it's not quite as long, and turn it into a Texas Big Tex trailer. So that'll be something else to get going on eventually when I get time. But let's go ahead and see what this looks like with 2 wheels. We'll just have to export that and see. It's really hard to tell what the file size will actually end up being. You got to keep it under 16 meg, or else it'll crash the game. So we'll see how that comes out. But that looks really good. And that's all. So I need to center that. So anytime you're building wheels or doing work to them, you got to make sure you keep your axis centered. So the wheel I know is already dead center, so I've already done it. Yeah, I like the beefier stuff. I mean, it's the low profile stuff's one thing, but it gets old. I mean, everybody's done that. I like some of the more traditional off-road looking vehicles. I've actually got I think I can open this up twice. I've actually got the Silverado, the big one that we did a while back. I actually put this whole setup on that truck, and it actually looks pretty freaking good. For let's see. I think it was the dually I was playing with. I started messing around with this new suspension on it. This was it. Yeah, this thing's got a super detailed motor too. That was another reason I wanted to stick it on this 80s truck. It looks really freaking good. And it's got the older, smaller wheels on it. Hey, you did. Good job, man. Now everybody will know who you are. So, there we go. So this one's going to look freaking really sweet. But yeah, that suspension and those wheels, that turned out really good on this one. Oh, don't look behind the curtain. Jesus. You'll see all kinds of crap back there. I literally get so many different things I'm working with on a daily basis that I just have to archive my whole desktop like once a month. I mean, it'll literally get full of textures and everything else that I'm working on, and just have to dump it and archive it and just remember that I've got it somewhere. But this one will be sweet too when it gets done. I personally think this looks 1,000 times better than the other one that I did, but that one was a while back, so this will be another one to finish at some point. Yeah, that desktop's out of control. So let's save this before we get too crazy. Oh yeah, it looks way nicer. Yeah, they look good on it. That's definitely the style. That's like that. So the F350. I don't know if you guys saw the video I did on that one, but it looks pretty sweet. I went ahead and threw all that 2000s era parts on it, and I think it turned out really nice. So what I'm doing here is I'm centering this drum with the wheel. So a lot of times when you're doing this, it's best to do it from a straight-on view from the left pane view, and turn textures off, and then you can see your axes of each piece and see how far off they are. So I'll just take and just do the Z-axis until it's lined up, and then change to the Y-axis and do the same thing. Helps if you zoom in a little bit. Just make sure you get it dead on it best you can, and that'll keep your wheels from bouncing and stuff. Oh yeah, very nice. And once you get that done, go ahead and, well, before we attach it, let's make sure the back spacing's right on it. One more thing I pay way too much attention to probably, but yeah, that's good enough. So we'll go ahead and attach it. And there's your rear wheel. So since we're doing two different wheels, one in the front, one in the back, normally you just have the one front wheel with the brackets around it, and that's how it knows to copy itself to the others. But this is going to be set up much like a dually because it's got a drum in the back and a different wheel. So the LR wheel, I'll actually build it just like the front and put it in brackets, and the copied wheel, drag it down here, give it a different name so it matches. Dummies are off, so we have to fix that. So I'll go back to my axis tool again and copy the axis of the wheel to the dummy so that it's centered. And that's that. So then you can take and copy convert it to a default, LOD 0, copy it up, dismiss that collision, turn it on. Obviously it's way off, but your wheel's centered. This is the best way to do your axes for your wheels when you're doing them. And that may be not the right one. We'll see how it fits. Just copy the axis from the wheel to the collision for the wheel, and that's the best way to get them centered and exactly where they need to be, so your wheels don't hop around or skip around or anything like that. So my front one's off too. I need to fix it. So from here, set it, turn that off, copy the one from the wheel to the dummy, and now my wheels are centered in the front and back. And then I'll show you another trick later for doing the other side and keeping them all balanced. So we can convert lock, LOD 0, turn that off, go to collision, drop your collision up there. So now your front and back wheels are finished. What did I just do? Okay, I did the front. So the back one, go down here, lock it, turn the collision on, put its collision in, and you're done. And then your back two wheels, the other side, we'll do those in a minute because we'll have to recenter everything. And it's actually easier to just delete the ones that you had from the previous model, especially if you've already resized the dummies or the collisions. If it's saying out of memory, you need to be using the 64-bit version. If you're using the 32-bit, like up here at the top, if it says 32-bit, it's going to crash on you constantly. I accidentally loaded the 32-bit one time, and I couldn't even load half my models I was trying to work with. So if you go to the Zmod website, there'll be a different download link for the 64-bit version, and then you'll be able to open models that have like 1.5 million polygons and stuff like that, and it won't crash. You may still cause it to crash from time to time doing oddball stuff, but the basic constant errors that you get from that will be fixed. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these because we're not going to use them. I'm going to copy them and redo them in a minute. So let's see. There's our fender trim. What is up with that? Oh shoot, I know what I did there. So here's an example of copying something with the correct axis. So this fender trim that I did on this side of the model, I now need to move it to this side. See, before it was just the bare fender, it didn't have the trim on it. So I just need to find that mesh piece, which is MISIC B, and just highlight it and create a copy of it. Then you can go to mirror and just make sure that axis is turned off. If If it's not, it'll completely screw you over. Just make sure geometry's on. So that's just going to be the shape of the mesh for you. So just highlight the one you want to mirror and make sure you got your x-axis on. Hit it, and now you're perfect on the other side and they match. Saves you so much time. You shouldn't ever have to recreate the same thing twice for a vehicle like that. So that's the front's done. And that back one, it already has it, so I'm not going to copy it again and overlay it. Go in here, and this can be tedious because this bed on this truck is actually a high poly bed. And by polys, I mean the squares and triangles. You can see how dense they are versus, like, let's say the example of the bed. You see how it's got big spacing between all the dots? So that's what you want. You want to get the big spacing as much as possible. Most of these models were, like I said, Hum 3D models, so they're ridiculously sampled to the point where they can do renders and they look like actual real life vehicles. But in game, that's not feasible. It doesn't work. So you have to decrease the polys and everything. Yeah, and if you're, I don't know if you know this or not. Some people don't. If you're ever, because you know how Zmod automatically saves constantly. If it ever crashes, just go back to your Zmod folder and there'll be an auto backup file, and that'll be the last time it's saved. And you can open that up. 9 times out of 10, you'll maybe have only lost like 5 or 10 minutes of work. So it's never a full loss if that ever happens. Just go look in the actual original Zmod folder and you'll see auto backup as a Z3D, and you can just open it and rename it to whatever you were working on before, and hopefully not have to cry about everything you lost. Trust me, I've been there. So I want to copy this. Changeable license plate. So do you mean like instead of it saying San Andreas, you want it to be like Georgia or Alabama or something like that, like real life? I did that for a dude the other day. It was actually the first time I've ever done it. And it's way easier than I thought. It actually has nothing to do with the model whatsoever. So apparently every model, regardless if it's a replace or an add-on, uses the, let me show you. So if you're in here, in OpenIV, you can go into this one file and change the textures in it to whatever state you want them to be, and then every license plate in the game will be changed to whatever state you want it to be. So like his was Arizona, so we changed it to the Arizona state plates, and now every car in the game matches. Yeah, yeah, you don't even have to mess with that stuff. It's literally, well, let me show you. Let me find it real quick. I think it's the X64E folder is where you would put it, and I think it's the vehicle share file, if I'm not mistaken. Vehicle share, YTD right here. Just open that, and then you just paste in your license plate that you want and its bump map. You don't have to worry about the numbers because they'll automatically go where they need to go. It's a whole separate texture for that. But you can replace any of these default GTA plates, and every plate in the game for every car will change to that state flag or state plate that you want it to be. So just replace plate 01 and plate 01 normal with your 2 textures that go over them. And that's all you got to do. And then it'll go across every vehicle. You don't have to worry about doing it, because I was beating myself in the head for a while about that, because I thought you had to do it in the actual models file. Because you can do it in the model and it shows up on the model and in the viewer right, but as soon as you get in the game, it goes right back to the normal plates because it reads everything from that share file. So as long as you replace it in the share file, you're good. It's super easy. Way easier than I thought it was. Alright, so I'm going to try to select all this fender and see if I can get this turned black like it's supposed to be. What's our time looking like? 11:26. What are we, an hour and a half in? Almost 2 hours. So we'll try it. I really wanted to get this in the game tonight, but it may take a little later time to get it done. So I'm just selecting all this fender so I can make it black like the other one. I think that'll get it. Just go up here and change our texture. Black. There we go. Now we got matching fenders on both sides. That looks freaking sweet. Alrighty. Now take that hitch off, or the front bumper off, and let's get that square body. What's the total vert count? I don't really think it matters for vert. Polygon's more important. Like for example, this whole model here is vert-wise, it's high. We're looking at 415K on vert, but if you switch to quad meshes, so another way you can save some space is highlighting your whole model and go to convert triangle base mesh to quad mesh and just click that, and it'll sit there for a few minutes, and then you'll see your polygon count and your vert count change, and that can save you some space. Sometimes it'll save you a ton of space, but it kind of splits out the triangles from the polygons when you do that. So this number down here may be stupid high, but as long as your polygon count stays low when you do your export, it very well could be under the cap that it needs to be for 16 megs. So once you do that, let's go ahead and get this done. So that's all you got to do. That'll save, especially if you're bringing in parts from 3D Warehouse or somewhere like that. Most PC games are already fully optimized, so you don't really have to do it. But like stuff from SketchUp and things like that, you want to optimize them, turn them to quads before you try to do the parts. And also, when you're doing the export from SketchUp, a lot of that stuff will work just fine. It's just how you export it. So when you do your exports, it's a lot better to do it as a 3ds object instead of an OBJ. Because if you convert it to OBJ, the file size is way bigger than it should be. So if you keep it as a 3ds piece, that's how, because like if you go into SketchUp and look at a model, it tells you what kind of polygon count it has. But if you convert that to an object, it like doubles it. So if you do it as a 3ds file and then import the 3ds file into here, it'll be a lot more manageable to deal with the parts than doing it as an OBJ. Oh, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm actually gonna do something similar to that with my loader that I'm working on, and also the Bobcat, the skid steer that I did. I'm actually gonna put a bunch of different extras as the different buckets. So you can have like a fork on the front of it and just have it, with its own collisions. It'll be able to lift up things if you want to. So just other things, and I also got the logging mod. I'm also got working on some kind of lifting mechanism to actually be able to pick those logs up and load them onto a truck, so that you can fully do that job more realistically. So that'll be really cool. Oh, cool. Yeah, just hit me up in Discord. That's great. Anything that you guys can ever come up with to help give me more options and stuff to make for everybody. That's great. So let's get rid of this bumper because we want it to be. I can actually show you guys. Hold on. Give me 1 second to find it. I'll kind of show you what look we're going for. this is the look we're going for when we're going to be finished. Similar to it anyway. So we got the tires matching pretty close. We decided to go with this style wheel and tire combo. Let me get my chat back up here so I can see you guys. And we're going to switch to this front bumper style, this paint schema to kind of match the black trim and everything that's on here. Yeah, I've got OBS. I've got all those. I mean, I've got pretty much any model of any truck you could imagine at this point. I mean, I'm shocked when somebody comes up with something that I don't have. Yeah, I've got the OB. I can show you in just a second. I'm probably going to wrap this up here in the next 10 minutes anyway, just because I've kind of been droning on now, but it's coming along good. We'll probably have this in game. I'll be able to post some screenshots of it driving around and stuff once we get the motor swap and everything done. But let me save this real quick. I actually need to go see that file name on that Chevy, or the other truck I've got anyway. See if I can get the right bumper in here, because we want to kind of go with a square fog light bumper instead of the round one. Yeah, let me see. I've actually got a two-door OBS that I've been working on, but I've also got the four-door version, which is the original that I was playing with. This is one that I found a long time ago. I think that was one I did for West Side. I think I converted one for him a long time ago. Let's see. Shoot, I don't remember which F250 this is. That's the new one. Hold on. Which one this one is either. Maybe the same one. Nope, that's a different one. Some good links though. Might use those. So that's the basic truck, but I've actually got it fully converted already, where it has all the right parts on it like it's supposed to have. This was the one that I had cleaned up. Yeah, this is it. I had all the right badging and stuff on this one. Just need to change it to the F250 badge, but had all the light textures and everything on it. Had all the right plating on the back, all the logos where it should. Working on doing the bench seat in it, getting those set up. I was swapping head bucket seats in it, so I'm changing all that out. Got the dash and everything in it that I pulled out of the Excursion. Gonna retexture all that so it matches. But it's coming along pretty good. And this is the four-door. I've got the two-door somewhere. The two-door actually looks really, 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 really good. Let me see. Where is it? Got so much I can't even keep up with it anymore. Oh, here's the. I'm sure you guys have seen the video of this one. This was the 2000 dually that I worked on. So this is the one I was playing with. All the old school parts on it. But it's coming out pretty nice. This is one I've already got done. I just hadn't decided what I want to do with it yet. I did all the full leaf spring suspension and everything on this one. But it's coming out nice. This one had the full motor in it like the Excursion does. So it's got the actual power stroke in it. Let's see. Where is that OBS at? Is that same one, did I? Certainly not. I cannot Oh, wait. Yeah. Was it this one? It was actually a customer build that I started. Nope, that was one of the Silverados I did. That one turned out pretty good too. Let's see, what was it? Good grief. So I'm trying to find it. Maybe this was it. There it is. So this is the single cab that I threw together. Single cab long bed. Did the same suspension and everything on this. Which I may actually pull this off and put the even newer suspension that I've got on this other truck on there. But this one will look really good when it's done. I'm liking the look of this one. Probably change the wheels out. I'm not really a fan of these, but I may. I haven't done a public release in a while, and I just hadn't decided yet. Let me go. I gotta go pull the bumper off this one, I believe. This was actually another one that I've started that I hadn't finished yet. This is one that I converted to the old school Cadillac front end. I've actually done the interior swap and everything in this one. So I got all the Cadillac interior and everything in it. So this one will be sweet when I get done with it. But that is actually the Caddy front end on that one. That's not the Silverado. So hold on. Shoot. All right. This was what I started with originally. It was the cat eye truck, but that's the front bumper we want. The square headlights or fog lights in it. I did the custom grille and everything in this one. And this is just the stock interior and everything on it. But this one will be sweet too. I've done so many of these half-built vehicles. It's just ridiculous. So let me see. Hey, I've been doing it for almost 3 years now, nonstop. So it's just practice makes perfect, man. And I'm still not perfect, so I learn new stuff all the time. And if I knew all the stuff I know now, I would go back and slap my original stuff for doing stuff the way I did it back then. Yeah, I can do. I mean, I've started all kind. I've done some boats in the past for people, just random stuff that people wanted. I started to do a because I wanted a fully working boat and trailer as well. But the problem you have is the way the game works is like if you back the trailer down into the water, whenever you run the boat up on it and attach it, it wants to stick at odd angles. It don't want to rest flat on the boat because the trailer's tilted. So when you try to hook them together, it just doesn't match right. I I may go back and revisit it one day, but I would love to have like a bass boat and trailer that actually functioned the way it was supposed to, and do that. So I'm gonna pull over that bumper that we had on that other truck. Find it. And once I get the bumper on here, we're probably going to call it because we're already getting at 2 hours, and I really don't like to make these go too long. I'm impressed you guys have hung on as long as you have. This stuff can be quite tedious and boring at times, but I mean the payout at the end is just incredible when you get it pulled off. Um, let's see, where is that stupid thing I just did? There it is. Oh, sweet. Fits almost perfect. So now we can go in here, turn off the old bumper, and now we have the new bumper. And it really doesn't need that much tweaking to it. I just need to slide it over. Are you still in here, Lethal? Does that look good? That style bumper, is that what you're going for? The picture, I think, had the square head fog lights. Yep, that looks like it right there. Yep, it's got all the same cutouts and everything. So, let's make our textures match. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't think you can. I've tried it several times. I've tried doing the bumper, the gooseneck. So basically, what happens is you have a attach female, I think. Yeah, attach female for trailers. So if you had two of them, anytime you load the vehicle in the game, it scrolls and loads all this stuff, and it hits that first one, and that's the one that's going to work. And then the second one just gets ignored. So I haven't figured out a way yet to make those. Like I've tried loading them in extras, but when you put these in an extra, it's not really a part of a LOD. It's kind of just a native part, so it never goes away. So even though you turn the extra and the extra mesh may change, these underlying dummies don't toggle on and off. So I don't know that anybody will ever be able to get it to work in a single vehicle. I mean, you'll always have to have like a bumper pull version and a gooseneck version to get away with it. So I've tried every way I could possibly think of to get it all into one model, but I've never had any luck with it. Let's see. Place that. What colors were these? So the top's black, middle's chrome, bottom's black. So I don't need that to be paint at all. Let's see. Okay, that part's already done. Change all of that to car body black. Just a little bit on the trim. Yep. Yeah, I looked at the picture of it. I'm getting it situated. Like, there's a little bitty gap. See, these are the things right here that drive me nuts. So most people just put this out like it is. But if you look very close, you can see there's a gap right there in that mesh, and that just drives me insane. So you can actually pull it back up like this, take it to the vert level, and the vertical level lets you drag pieces around. Actually select all of this. Selected. See. Let me just go back. It was all selected a minute ago. Do it again. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself here. Actually, let's be smart about this. I swear I do things the hard way. Now, go to the BERT level. Turn off outline so the lines go away. My opinion on drag cars, I can do them. It's just not my thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm more in, like I said, I'm more into the construction stuff, things that people don't do every day. I can do just about anything, but I'm not a big fan of them. I mean, they're great. They have their place, but to each their own, I guess. All right, so now we take this. We can actually slide this whole piece up just a hair to close in that gap, so that when you're looking at it, you don't see through the frame. And take care of that. Let's see. Take that back for a second. Select all of this piece. Just go ahead and highlight all this. Slide the whole thing up. Now, alright, man. Yeah, just hit me up in Discord. Turn that off. And tweak it up just a pinch. That'll close in all those gaps on that. There's a spot right there that we missed. So let's switch this back. Oops. It's hard to see when you got all those little bitty polygons together like that. You can't really see everything you're supposed to select. Change that to black. Done with that. And of course, these need to be lights if I hadn't already made them lights. But I'll save that for another video. I'll probably get on here and do some more. I'm going to be finishing this thing up this weekend for sure. This gets us really close to getting it in the game. I still need to see if I can find the trim panels to go on the side to kind of match this. Pretty sure I've got something similar to that on my excursion that I can use. But all in all, I think it's a pretty close match so far. Let's go ahead and turn this off. See what you guys think. Obviously the wheels are different, but that's pretty close. It's pretty spot on. Mirrors match. Oh, I gotta change those to black, so we'll retouch up that stuff. So I gotta redo the mirrors and put the side trim on it. And then of course we're gonna do the full motor swap, so that'll be a little bit more in depth because we're gonna take the new Duramax motor and stick it in this older truck. I've actually got a newer Duramax in some of my newer Chevys, so we will actually have to pull that out. Yes, I can tell. See, tires are tricky because you'll find tire models all over the place, but 99% of them have no textures on them whatsoever. And texturing a tire from scratch, so just as an example, I can show you this one. Whoever made this originally did a pretty good job texturing it. I went back and added the bump map to it and added the Patriot logo to the side of it and everything. Um, but you can go into Surface and go to Edit UV and make sure you're in the object level. And make sure you're selecting the. So just click on that and say keep old mapping. Don't ever do generate new because that'll completely screw up whatever you're trying to look at. Just always do keep old mapping. UV indexes, 1 is always like your mesh detail like this. If you ever want to see like the mud map and stuff like that, that's always going to be UV2. So if you ever want to put a mud map on something and it's already mapped on layer 1, you can do copy UV map from channel 1 and change this to edit UV map number 2. That'll take the mapping from 1 to 2, so then your mud texture will actually show up where it's supposed to. I can get into a whole thing about that. Texturing is a whole different animal versus doing the mesh stuff. So click your model, do keep old mapping and hit OK, and it'll go examine it and export all the details for that mesh. Sometimes if it's a big model, it can take a minute to pull the full mapping off of it. But we'll see it here in a second. Alrighty. It's like importing a vehicle. Sometimes you sit here for days waiting for it to load. So once that's done, you want to change your panes around here. So we'll come out of this one. You'll need to make sure you got UV Mapper open. And then click Material and go to the one that's the tire texture and then click on it. And once you get it open, you can zoom in and you can see how every little piece is mapped to where it's supposed to be. How you do this right here, I have no freaking clue. All I know is you have to slice all the individual pieces off the mesh, and it looks, I've like half played with it before and it's tedious as crap. So a lot of times I try to find stuff that's already got a good map on it like this. So if you import a tire from whatever you get it from, always go in before you even start doing anything to the tire, pull the mesh off of it or pull the UV mapping and just make sure that it imported correctly. If it did, it'll be nice and even laid out like this. And then you can go in and just play with the texture and get as detailed as you want on the texture and things will show up. So like, for example, this tire didn't have any writing on the side of it for branding. So I actually took on the bump map layer, which you can come over here and look at the normal layer, the pattern, the tire in, and you can see where I did a bump map of the actual sidewall of a Patriot tire and just generated a whole new bump map from that. So that once you get it set up right in the game, you can actually zoom in and see that it's got the writing on the side of it. I've actually had to shrink it down a little bit because of this tire or wheel, but it has the full branding and everything on the side of it like it should have. So bump maps and things like that, something we can get into another day, but I mean, none of it's really hard. It's just sitting down and teaching you how to do it. But you can add tremendous amounts of detail to your vehicle by adding a bump map to it. But I think we're going to call it here. We're a little over 2 hours, I think, now. But I've enjoyed having you guys. Made pretty good progress on the truck tonight. Like I said, I may pick this back up tomorrow and just do another live stream of actually getting it in the game and show you guys what it looks like after we do the motor swap and everything. May actually swap the seats out too and put some of the newer Chevy seats in it just to give it a little bit more detail. And hell, we may even take the whole dash out if Lethal wants to. We can get as crazy with it as we want. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Yeah, this is an exclusive for a customer, but the cat eye truck I may eventually do a stock version or something like that and put it on Five Mods. But a lot of these are just customs that I'm doing for people. 73. You know, you mentioned that. I've got a Falcon too. Actually, my grandson actually has me doing a lot of these. I've been doing a lot of the Mad Max vehicles lately. If you're on the Discord, you can go back through some of the pictures and see where I've taken the People Eater truck that GTA came up with, the generic one, and converted it over to the actual vehicle and put the multiple trailers attached to it and everything. Um, yeah, we'll have to see about getting some of these translated if you don't speak English. So, um, let's see. Was it a Falcon? Falcon. Yep, this is one I pulled that we were wanting to get converted. It definitely needs better textures on it than what it has currently, but it'll look sweet. He's just been having a lot of these. I'm not doing as releases. We've just been kind of getting them converted to do Mad Max videos and stuff like that. So just different things. But I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys go. I appreciate you hanging out, and we may pick this back up tomorrow and get it going again. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.